It's like poker's like sex. No one has any idea what they're doing, but everyone thinks they're really good at it. It's like the same thing. Like no one has a fucking clue.
On this episode, we're giving the people what they really want. Less of me and more of the modern success coaches and our team. I'm talking Dale, our inner game wizard, Gore, the master at Daygame, Albert. Well, we got Albert on the show too. And what you're going to get is a great riveting debate between Daygame and Nightgame and all the mindsets that you need to have to become the best version of yourself. You do not want to miss this episode.
Like with content the way it is now where everything's like a sales thing and everything's like buy this, do that. Like I love the space for like the levity or like Sacha Baron Cohen just went on I think it was Jimmy Fallon. Yeah, Jimmy Fallon. And he like recreated Borat for like 2 minutes. Like,
oh, that's just something about that.
I just love all that stuff that's like, I think in like when in times of crisis or stress or whatever, like anything that's the space of like humor or levity or take the air out of it is like always fun to me. You know what I mean? Like not taking yourself or the idea of it too seriously. I don't know. Like you were talking about like, oh, you should write a book or put something out. I'm like, part of me is like, do I write it seriously or do I like make fun of myself in the industry a little bit? You know, like, cause I don't know if anyone's.
You could do a little both.
A little bit of both.
Yeah.
Is like always.
I feel like that would make it genuine.
Like some of my favorite videos that you guys do are like the really silly ones of like, you know, the one you had where you're like on the couch and you're like going out in my 20s.
That was my favorite. Oh my
Friday
God.
night in my 30s.
Little does everyone know it's so accurate. That's literally us every night.
I love that. I love the kind of stuff that's like not afraid. I think when I first started in like everything, and I know for you, like Dale, you've been around for a long time, Gore too, like everyone took themselves so seriously. You know what I mean? Like it was a bunch of guys that didn't have social skills and we were all learning together. And then like we were like afraid of getting made fun of. So we were like super serious. And then it's like when you realize like it's okay to like kind of poke fun of yourself or be self-deprecating in like a tongue-in-cheek way. To me, it just reigns more authentic.
Yeah,
I
would agree.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and I incorporate that in my own stuff. Like when I go out, I like to make fun of my own shortcomings because I think when a guy, you should be confident, but when a guy's like so over the top with like bragging and I'm a cool guy and I'm like, I have everything together, it seems like a front. You know, it doesn't seem like a real person.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I don't know where you're, you know, where you land on that. Like,
well, there was this guy that when I used to do real estate, this dude, he used to, he wanted to sell his condo. All right. And so I come in there and I'm just kind of looking around and stuff like that. And, you know, I'm giving him a pitch to, you know, list his condo. Right. And this guy was so over the top with everything. Guess how much that bottle over there costs? That bottle of tequila. Guess how much my watch costs? Guess how much that chandelier costs? It was just.
Sounds like he's not used to buying expensive things or just things in general.
It was so over the top, and you couldn't tell him anything. Like anything that you would say to this dude, he would spin it back around to him and how he's better.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? God. It was so obnoxious.
I think in South Florida, that's like my first indicator that someone's completely full of shit. Like every other word out of their mouth is a brag or is like a one up, like the one up, like you said, like, oh, this is a thing. And then it's like, I'm better. Like it's weird. Society to me is like flipped. It's like if I ask somebody if they're good at something, they're like, I'm okay. I'm like, that guy's a killer.
Oh, but the kicker. Oh, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah. No, you're good. You're good.
But the kicker is, so I list his condo and I'm doing an open house. And he's there. Typically, it was like, it's their house. I can't kick him out, but I highly suggest you're not here. He didn't want to leave. And so he's talking to me and he's like, yeah, man, I'm having all this problems with my girl and blah, blah. And then, of course, he's got to show me how hot his girl is. Check this out, And, he's having all these problems with her. And I was like, hey, man, can I be 100% honest with you? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, I do dating coaching, all right? And everything that you're telling me, I'm like, well, the issue is that she keeps asking him for money. And I'm like, look, man.
That's such a red flag.
I'm like, well, it's not even he set it up. Because if he was acting that way to me, imagine how he was acting with her.
Right.
And so, like dude, you led with, as soon as I walked through the door, you're like, this, look at this, look how cool this thing is, and you know that's what he was doing to her, probably to the 10th degree. So of course, this woman is going to be like, let me, buy me this handbag, blah, 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 and I'm like, you've set a precedence that now you painted yourself into a corner and you've given her everything that she's wanted, nothing that she's needed. And now it's coming back to bite you because now you're fed up with it. And so, of course, she's upset. Of course, she's mad because it's a pattern interrupt in like a bad way.
I feel bad for these dudes because I have to imagine they're so unaware that when they do that stuff, everyone who has a brain is like, you're clearly overcompensating, right? Like no one is like, oh, okay, I can't say no one. Maybe a small percentage of the population takes that at face value and is like, I'm impressed by this. Mm-hmm. But like anyone who's even mildly discerning has to be like, you poor guy. Like clearly you're like, they don't think that people are reading between the lines. Right, they think that just people are like, oh, check mark, watch, check mark, piece of art. Like, it's to me, it's like a cry for help, and I kind of feel for them. Mm-hmm. And I just don't know. Like, Anna, do you think girls, like from a female standpoint, do you think girls, when they hear that stuff, are the vast majority of women aware that that's compensating, or do you think they take it at face value?
I don't know. So this whole topic reminds me of the Fergie song, I Keep on Taking and Keep on Demonstrating. Do you know what I'm talking about? You know the song? I feel like girls just like...
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, it sounds familiar.
You don't know the song?
No.
I feel like they just
Can you do it? Can you do
yeah,
that?
I'm not going to sing it now. But the words are, I keep on taking and I keep on demonstrating. They're kind of just taking, and they're just like living their life. And that's it. They're not like, I guess so, just face value. Yeah.
I mean, and I get it. Like, the guy was trying to show off to Dale. Listen, I live in South Florida. Like, Gore lives in LA. These are pretty, ritzy, showy, glamorous places, but it's just so obvious to me, dude. Like, if somebody, dude, I run in some circles with some wealthy people, but I've always noticed, and maybe I'm, since I'm 39, I'm older and I've learned this, but to me, it's like, the guy who tells you how much he has nothing. Mm-hmm. And the guy who tells you he doesn't have that much has a lot more than he's leading on.
Yeah.
Is what mm-hmm. Gore, for you in LA, is that reign true, or is that just down here?
It's pretty common just amongst that
I feel like there's 3 different types. So it's like people that don't mind saying how much they have and they're like moderate, or the ones that don't want to say is they have nothing, or don't want to say is they have a lot.
Right.
I feel like only the moderate ones are comfortable with saying how much they have.
And the thing too that, Anna, the thing that Dale said that stuck out to me is when it comes unprompted. It's not like I said, hey dude, I love your place. What, if you don't mind me asking, what did you pay for it? Right. That's one thing. Or like, buddy, I love your watch. What'd you get for it? And I'm like, oh dude, I paid this much. But if it's unprompted, where you're like, oh, by the way, this watch costs this much, I'm so like, oof, like that is a cry for attention.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what it reminded me of is, there's no way you're going to remember this. You might remember this. You won't remember either. But do you remember Wheel of Fortune? Back in the day, Wheel of Fortune.
Vanna White, brother. Yeah.
Right. Where they would show like, it would look like a living room set, and they would have the prices on the things.
Of course.
And like, okay,
Showcase Showdown.
You got X amount of dollars that you want on the wheel. You can, buy these lamps or whatever, right? That's what it was like. It was like he just had the price.
Yeah, you open the little slide and it shows like 2,800.
Yeah. That's what reminded me. And you know what? I took that dude out one night because I was like, hey man, I'm running this boot camp, blah blah blah. Why don't you come out with me? Because I'm thinking this dude's like, he did have money. It was, like I knew what his finances were just from real estate shit. But I'm thinking, okay, this guy, he's perfect, to like bring on and all that. So what he was doing was, one of the things I like to do is have a guy, I give him a little bit, but not a lot, because I kind of want to see where they're at, as a measuring stick, right? And so now the guy had a Porsche, okay? Guess how much that cost? But he has a Porsche, and he's got the keychain with the Porsche logo on it, right? he walks up to this girl. He sits down, all douchey, puts his keychain on the bar top, and as he's talking to her, he's going like this, tap, tap, tap.
Words too, and it's so cringy. I've experienced this before at tea room specifically. Like a guy's like, "Oh wait, no, I got you." And I'm like, "No, it's okay. I have a boyfriend." Blah blah blah. And he'll like throw down his Amex. It's like the top level. You have to get asked to get it, and then he'll keep on pointing at it and he'll be like, "Oh," and I'm
His
like,
black
"This is so
card,
cringe."
bam.
I'm like, "Why do you got to do it like that? Like if you just would have put it down and didn't say anything, that would have been way better."
Oh my god!
When you have to point at it and you have to talk about it over and over, it's like, oh,
you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of the guys, and Dale Gore, comment if you've ever ran into this guy, when they find out what we do and like, oh wait, you guys like teach classes to men about social skills and meeting girls and stuff, and they're like, oh my god, you should have me on as a coach. I could teach your class.
Oh, I
Dude,
get
you
that
know what
so
I'm talking
much.
about?
Yeah,
The guys that say it. And as soon as I hear that, I'm like, I would love to see you, coach, because I guarantee you would have no advice. You'd be like, here's the microphone. Go ahead. What do I do?
Just be smooth.
Yeah, they have like no tangible advice. But
They'd be like, just be yourself.
But they're just like, I know how to do it. I'm like, okay, I'm sure you do, buddy.
I always say
what I mean?
this. Guys like to say that they can do two things, but really can't do either. Pick up women and fight.
Oh yeah.
I'll add one more to that too. And because this is like, I play some poker too. And there's an old phrase with poker. It's like, poker's like sex. No one has any idea what they're doing, but everyone thinks they're really good at it. It's like the same thing. Like no one has a fucking clue. But what I found is, and the same thing too with the pickup too. It's like I had this one guy who I met, and he's really charismatic dude and whatever. And I'm like, you know what? We go, dude, this is the only time it's ever happened. This guy could actually get really attractive women. And I went out to a bar with him once, and I go, "Hey, it's my buddy Benny. I want to introduce you to him." And I try to introduce him to these two girls, and he literally talked to girls, and he looks at me, and goes, "Albert, I'll be honest with you, man. You don't have to do that for me. I'm okay."
Yeah.
That guy's good because he's just like subtle, doesn't brag. But I'm like, this guy's a fucking killer because like it's the only time I've seen somebody not want that. I don't know, man. It's just, it is what it is. And I think as a girl down here, she gets bombarded with it. Gore, LA, we talk a lot on this show about the dating scene and how South Florida is. LA right now, you spent a weekend here in Miami. Similarities, is it different? Is it unique? Are they like different versions of the same coast? Like what do you think is different in terms of West Coast versus East Coast right now?
Yeah, I think it's a pretty clear difference, to be honest. Like with Miami, at least like you can see the type of girl that this girl is. And what I mean by that is like there's this crowd that's like super approachable, super supportive, like actually genuinely nice. And it's easy to talk to, like good energy. And then there's this crowd that's like just no thanks, like won't even entertain a conversation. In LA, it's a complete blur of the middle ground of that. It's like benevolence all throughout. And so you don't know how somebody actually feels.
Interesting.
Because everybody's just nice, right? There's this, people talk about the East Coast of like New Yorkers and how they're assholes. But they say that New Yorkers will be assholes to your face and nice to you.
Behind your
like
back.
Behind your back, yeah. And people in the West Coast will be just benevolent. Nice. What was it? Nice in your face and assholes behind your back.
I always that's funny. I always describe that as like male friendships. Yeah. It's like male friendships will be like, dude, fuck you, bro. What are you wearing? You look like an idiot. And then the guy leaves and he's like, who's that? Oh, that's my best friend.
Yeah.
And then girls will do the opposite. The girls will be like, oh my God, I love your hair. And then the girl walk out of the room and be like, I hate her hair. She's a bitch. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's like literally like kind of that dynamic. And
still her best friend.
I wonder do you think it's because LA is like a climber like kind of society, right? Where everyone's trying to get like move up in the industry or move up in
they just
social
don't want to burn bridges.
Yeah, they don't know if like I can't fuck with this guy. Maybe he's a producer or maybe he's a executive or some shit. I wonder if it's like related to that.
There is an obvious like culture of hierarchy in LA where it's like who's who do you know, like what do you do, how many followers do you have, there's this because there are a lot of places that are exclusive. I feel like those bigger names set the culture where it's like, everybody knows that place, and everybody also knows that not everyone can get into it. So then the people getting into it have status, and then people start looking up to that, and that's what's valued as a culture.
Gotcha.
And that's just like the overall vibe in LA for the most part, in like the scene, like the night scene.
My impression, at least from the female side, Anna, I'm curious on your take on this, is I feel like girls go to LA to make it as like print and like catwalk models, and girls come to Miami to make it as like digital models. And they're like, girls here are like, I make $50K a month on OnlyFans, and I'm going to live in a nice building. And girls in LA are like, I need to be signed by a modeling agency.
Yeah.
Like,
I feel like that's more New York.
Is that New York,
modeling
really?
Agency.
Okay,
I feel
maybe
like modeling
that is.
agency is more like catwalks, in my opinion.
Catwalks in New York.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what it is. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like LA and I feel like Florida is very like get famous online. I don't know. It's such a shortcut, honestly. Like, but having an agency, like, in my opinion, I'd be like, why not both?
Right.
If you really want to hit the top, I would say why not both? But also, some agencies are really strict, right?
Okay, and then nitty gritty wise, dating, because dating here is very, dude. This is, I think, at least, and Dale, this might be foreign to you because I know you're Detroit, so it's a different thing. But dating here is so interesting. This is like the girls, like if you watch a South Florida girl's Instagram, they're always at a boat, or they're always at like courtside at a basketball game, or they're always at like some like $500 a plate restaurant, but it's just them and their girlfriends. And you know that there's some dude paying for this shit, but he's never tagged. He's never in the frame. Is that happening in LA, Gore? Or is it like, are people dating more openly? Are they like, this is my boyfriend?
I feel like that's more of like the type of girl, more so than like the place that they're in.
Okay.
Because the girls that are more like IG famous are a lot more careful with what they put out and their reputation. But every girl has a guy in her life that she's either talking to or hooking up with in her life. That is an option at all times.
On that note, I have a question for the panel here. Somebody posed this to me. I was listening to it. Actually, I was watching I'm in a relationship now, so now I do really fun things on Sunday nights, like watch Love is Blind with my girlfriend on the couch.
That's my girlfriend's favorite.
That's it, really?
Yeah.
That's my unwind. Love is Blind to unwind. Hashtag.
Gotta switch to Love Island.
I know. We got
So good.
we're making our way that way. We're making our way. But there was something that was posed on Love is Blind yesterday that I thought was really interesting on the new season. They talked about when you're in a relationship, what are the different stages or elements of potential unfaithfulness, right? Because there's obviously like cheating is if I'm dating a girl and I just get physical with another girl, that's pretty clearly cheating. But they were like, well, is cheating looking at another girl, which I think is a no, or is cheating getting into it? Because a guy confessed on the show that he had gotten into a girl's DMs and he was messaging her and they were flirting back and forth and there was messaging with potential intent. Do you guys, in your guys' opinion, does that cross the line into infidelity or cheating?
I mean,
I think so, 100%. Because it's like if Jared was to message a girl like, "Hey, I want to meet you. Hey, I really want to f you. Hey, you're really hot. This and that." I'd be like, "Yo, like all you need to do is put you guys together, and you're just gonna go balls to the wall, hot and heavy." So like that's cheating. You have the intent. The only thing that's missing is the actual meet and greet.
Is the actual action.
Yeah.
So
like,
once the words are put out into the universe.
Yeah, you already have intent. You're already messaging back and forth. Maybe even pictures and calls are done. Like you're cheating.
What if she's not into it?
I mean,
he's sliding the DMs.
regardless, if a guy is doing that, you should not be with him, and vice versa. If a guy's with a girl that's doing that, he shouldn't be with her because that's clear signs of disrespect. They don't respect you.
But that's not cheating. That's just disrespect.
But like, they would cheat. They're literally trying to cheat. They're like, yeah, let's meet up. Oh my God, you're so hot. This and that. Like, you're going to cheat.
So that's emotional cheating, right?
Yeah.
It's not physical cheating. It's emotional cheating.
It's going to be physical cheating the moment they have a free moment to meet up.
But like you said, what if she's not into it?
I mean,
that's P. Diddy cheating. No, I'm just kidding.
But I'm sure if he or she is doing that with one person, there's 10 other people in the DMs that they're trying to meet up with.
That's interesting. So would you be
Like, you don't just,
would you
like,
be more
start
offended
trying
or
to
more? Would you be more upset, less upset, or the same if you caught your significant other doing that compared to like you caught him in a fucking hotel room doing some sleazy shit?
Obviously more upset knowing when they did the action, like, currently, but like even like leading up to it, I would still be upset. Either way, I feel like a breakup's happening because like that's not cool.
Either way, yeah,
Yeah.
it makes sense.
Because like if you literally have intent to be unfaithful to the person that you're with, and you're not having a conversation that to the person that you're supposedly faithful to, it's just Like, but like, what's the point? Why are you guys together?
Yeah.
The person that you're with isn't pleasing you in bed. Like,
Gore, what's your take? You catch your girl like messaging a dude. Let's say maybe it's not as direct as Anna said, where it's like, I want to, let's hook up. But there's flirtation, right? Because like now it's like, where's the line, right, guys?
Right.
It's like, is the line saying, what have you been up to? Or like, I miss you, or haven't seen you in a while, or like, you look good in that outfit. Like, where do we, like, what is the line of demarcation for you guys? Let's say you caught your girl leaves her phone out and you see a message. What is is there a specific moment where you're like, that's it? Like what is it to you?
I'm a little traditional in that regard.
Okay.
But on a broader scale, I think the intention is enough. If you are flirting with somebody and you're open to the idea of something happening, it's just a matter of circumstance that will make it happen. Like kind of like what Anna was saying. And I feel like a kind of blurry line that we should touch on in this subject is the topic of like, what is the partner okay with, and like how much of your life do you include them in, right? Because it's one thing if you flirt with somebody with the intention of having sex with them and the intention of hiding that also at the same time from your partner. It's another thing if you playfully flirt with someone with no intention of having sex with them and include your partner in it. And you guys are, whether she's part of the conversation or she's not, or like you tell her about it, I think if it's coming from a good place, it wouldn't even sound like you had any wrong intention to begin with. But I feel like that inclusiveness is important in judging of like what's cheating and what's not. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a trust thing, right?
Yeah,
it boils down to the element of
it's a
trust.
thing, yeah.
Like, am I being honest with my partner? More than the action, it's you're undermining the trust of the foundation of trust in your relationship.
Right. With yourself too, because if you start doing things like that where you know you're hiding something, now you have to be conscious of that. Now you got to keep that in your mind, and little things like that start adding up. And what happens when little things like that start adding up is that it starts adding up between you guys. And so it starts distancing the two of you. Until like the communication starts suffering between you guys in the relationship, and then that leads to other things, even if you don't actually cheat. But those things lead to a more toxic relationship between the two of you.
Yeah, that gray area can like completely undermine it. I mean, Dale, you've been in a relationship for a long time, marriage. You know a lot about this. Like, how would you, like, a couple's been together for 20 plus years, like yourself,
Right?
Is it a not? Because she said immediate breakup. Is this a literally non-starter, like game ender, like deal breaker type of thing?
Well, here's the thing: if somebody in an open relationship,
right? Okay,
you know what I mean? Like, it's cheating and thing, right? So,
see, that's another example
Right.
of like what is cheating, right?
So-
Because you're okay with certain things.
yeah, but I'm not. I mean, it's not cheating if you're not breaking the rules.
that's another
Right.
thing. Like, every
Right.
relationship is different. And I feel like
Exactly.
when
That's
you
exactly what I'm
decide to date someone, you guys have rules and boundaries that are like you guys kind of have like a little verbal contract.
that need to be communicated.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Need to
Every
be
Every
mature
outlined.
relationship has
100%.
all that disgust, I feel like.
I
Yeah.
cannot stand. You see these things online, like what a relationship needs to look like. Well,
Yeah.
maybe that's what your relationship needs to look like. Like, these should be the ground rules of a relationship. Well, maybe the ground rules for your relationship.
Yeah.
It's up for the individuals to decide what's right for them and what isn't. And then from there, okay, now that we have rules of engagement laid out, now we know what's up, and now we know how to act and perform inside of our relationships. And anything outside of that, okay, is then cheating, right? So, man, like, and another thing too is, how are we defining flirting?
Right.
Yeah.
Right? Is like, oh, Anna, that dress looks so nice on you. To one girl, that's like innocuous, just a pleasant, nice thing to say. To another girl, it's like, why are you looking at it like that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right.
So, quick
Toxic.
story. Quick story. So, I'm with this girl. We go to brunch, okay? And it's like a pretty popular brunch place, but for whatever reason, on this particular Sunday, this place was empty. And so we go in, we go straight to the bar. We're sitting there at the bar. We're drinking our mimosas, having our whatever. And it was just us and the bartender. Attractive girl is a bartender. Okay. And, you know, I'm a talker. I like talking to people. And I'm just talking to her, you know, like I'm just being me, just chatting it up. And I notice homegirl gets kind of silent. And the bartender goes to the back. And I'm like, what's up? Like, what's your deal? And she's like, oh, so you're just going to sit here and flirt with her right in front of me, huh? And I was like, what? You know what I mean? Like, what are you talking about? She was like, I saw the way that you were talking to her. And I'm like, you are out of your mind. Because to me, with flirting comes intentionality. The only intention I had was having a good conversation because you're not saying shit.
Right.
You know? So is that flirting? Well, to some people it is. To some people it isn't.
It reminds me of especially the dress thing too, reminds me of Bill Burr has a great joke about intent and consent, right? And he goes, you never know, man, with the Me Too movement, like you could get a bad read. You could be hooking up with a girl and she's like, oh no, stop that. You're so bad. And then they read that back in court.
Right.
And she said, no, stop that. You're so bad. It's like, that's not how she said it. And it's like, I got a bad read, right? So it's like, if you take things out of context sometimes, right, it's like the intent could get really screwed up. But I agree with that, man. I think that's like probably one of the better things that's happened. I mean, listen, the world got a little screwed up with COVID and online dating and like this like Instagram, social media where dating kind of got thrown into this like weird smoothie. And I think one of the only good things that came out of that now is that I think more couples are comfortable with like setting their own rules of engagement, like you said.
Yeah.
Which never really happened in traditional senses, right? It was one way to do it. It was like this way or the highway.
Right. Very cut and dry.
Right. And, I'll give you an example, but there's funny stuff too. Like my girlfriend and her mom, my girlfriend likes to read it. Her mom is like more active on it. There's a site, we talked about the other day is, Are We Dating the Same Guy? It's a Facebook group where women post men or screenshots.
I heard guys use it too now.
Are they really?
Are we dating the same girl?
Oh, I didn't know that. That's interesting. But like,
I'm sure y'all's is even more crazy.
Oh my God,
honestly.
I can only
Girls
imagine.
in Florida be wild.
I can only imagine. But yeah, they use this forum, Dale, as like a court of public opinion to be like, I met this, and some of them are so ludicrous. They're like, I haven't even met this guy. We're about to go on a first date, and he said this to me. And they're posting this on like Facebook for like 10,000 strangers to be like the judge, jury, and executioner.
Right.
And I'm just like, dude, you should be setting your own shit, not
Exactly.
fucking Facebook. Like, you
Yeah,
know,
the
like
court of public opinion. A bunch of people that you don't know, a bunch of people that could just be saying whatever, just to troll or just to whatever.
Yeah.
And you're going to take those people's opinions over your own and whoever that you probably trust, that you probably talk to about the same thing.
Yeah.
You know?
And a lot of them are salty. Well, let's just say it, women that aren't living the most successful, happy relationship lives, because that's where they're on these sites. Just, no beef, but it's the truth. And you're like skewing it on that. So I don't know. To me, it's like, I'm kind of with Gore a little bit, where if it was my personal scenario, I might be a little tighter to the vest, but I think it's such a gray area as to like what's flirting, what's over the line. Yeah. I don't know. You guys are in a very progressive relationship.
I just feel like over the line is like intent to do sexual things together. Like just talking, being flirty, push pull. Like I'm like more okay with that. But like intent to actually meet up, have sex, make out, go on dates,
Like tangible
share
plans.
that stuff, I'm like, not gonna fly.
I have a
That's just kind of
question.
like, yeah.
What's the difference between intent and tension? Because there could
Intent
be
and tension.
sexual tension, right? With any man to woman,
Yeah.
friend or whatever.
Whether you act on it or
but
not.
maybe
I feel
they
like
don't-
That's
yeah.
where you draw the line.
Yeah. So does that count if there is tension, but they both know no, it would be wrong? But
Yeah, there's no
still, like,
plans, but there's tension,
there's-
right?
Yeah,
There's
there's
tension.
tension, but they respect the fact that they know that they can't do that because they have their own things going on.
Yeah, but like in a perfect ideal scenario where that would be possible and the circumstances were perfect, right time, right place, maybe that tension might be too strong and they might act on it just out
And
of
that's going over the
emotions
line.
Well,
Yeah.
without wanting to, without having the intent.
Let me ask you this. Have you ever been cut off in traffic?
Yes.
Did you want to kill that person?
I have.
Did you do it?
No.
So you're respecting, it's about respecting the rules that are in place, even though you may have a certain
Right.
feeling or
It's
a
like-
certain what, right?
Yeah, it's like you have to go to the bathroom so bad right now. You're not just gonna go in your pants. You're gonna wait and go to the bathroom.
Well,
Right, but I'm talking about the
Too
about
late.
the perfect I'm talking about the perfect circumstances.
well, okay. I mean, you could play the what if game all day long.
True.
You know, like what if one person's on one side of the country and the person's, I mean, you know, we got social media, we got text messaging, we got any which way to communicate with people, right? Are you saying, what if this person's in New York, this person's in LA? What if we just happen to meet in the middle in Kansas City? And everything just, you know what I mean? Like,
No, let's say they're friends, same city.
Okay.
They hang out, no intention of doing anything, but it's man to woman, you know, there's tension, there's some level of tension. So all that's missing is maybe like the girl's having an argument with her boyfriend and, you know, the friend is there for her and it happens to be like an intimate setting and the feelings are there. She's vulnerable.
Then-
you know, things could happen.
Well, of
out
course,
that
of
with
course.
no intent.
of course things could happen, but the thing is that if you have enough respect for your partner and the commitment that you've made, you know, then you're not going to jeopardize that. I'm not going to look, it's like saying, you know, I'm going to have an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting in a bar.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I'm not going to put myself in the position to, you know, infringe upon the commitment that I've made. If there's sexual, like, okay, I know she's into me. I know I'm into her.
Mm.
Hey, how about this? We don't drive alone together. How about this? We don't hang out together alone. You know, just to keep ourselves from being in that particular situation that could come up.
So here's my thing, Dale, though, because I'll take it one step further to his point. Because yes, if you're an alcoholic, don't be in a bar. But I have a friend, close friend, who was in a 4-year relationship, and they just got out of it within the last 60 days. And within a month of being out of that 4-year relationship, the girl was already Facebook official with another guy within like 3 weeks, posting pictures.
But they're not in a relationship.
That's so
They're the
cringe.
first people.
No.
Or the-
I said 4-year relationship ends
Right.
within under 30 days. The girl's already in a relationship with a guy that she already knew. To me, you know what that says? That motherfucker was the backup quarterback, sliding in little messages.
see.
Yeah.
There was flirtation. There was suggestion. Maybe they didn't get in the car together.
Yeah.
Maybe they didn't say, let's meet up.
Yeah.
But this motherfucker was laying groundwork, planting seeds, waiting it out because there's no way that quickly out of thin air, they're just jumping into it. And I think that that's sometimes what these things are talking about, right? So maybe if I'm, you know, flirtatious with a girl via DMs on something and I'm dating my girl and then we break up and it's like, and oftentimes it's the other way around. Let's be honest. Oftentimes it's the guys that are trying to get with the girls that are in a relationship. Maybe they know Anna's not available, but guys are still keeping up. Oh, you still with that one guy? All right, no problem. Maybe one day you'll get with me. You know, I'm sure that shit happens to a lot of girls, right? So I think that that's where it's like, if she's keeping him there as like a backup option,
Yeah.
that's probably the beginning of the problem.
I
You know
love
what I
that,
mean?
yeah.
I
Exactly.
I hear you. And I agree with what you're saying. But if you're in a relationship already, you shouldn't be putting yourself in the position to have that backup quarterback.
Yeah, to have the
right. But I'm not gonna, you might say it's semantics, but I'm not gonna suggest that that's cheating.
Yeah, honestly, I have a question now. So I have like a lot of friends from high school, males and females, and randomly I'll always post, and a lot of them are single, and they'll randomly just like a lot of stuff. I don't see them as the backup I don't see them as a backup. They may see that, but I'm just like, friend from high school, comments on stuff that I have to say. Like, that's cool, whatever.
They just comment on your post, you're saying?
Yeah, once in a while. Like, oh my God, that's so cool. They'll send me posts about business stuff. They're like, oh my God, what do you recommend I do? Or just hearing that common like chit chat.
No, but listen, we're not saying that
No,
this isn't a Puritan times where like if you're with a guy, you can't associate with any other men.
Yeah.
I think that there's, and again, it's a line, but it's a fine line of what is inappropriate communication. I'm sure you have female friends in your life. You have female friends. I have female friends. You have male friends, right? Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean that they're our backup option for a relationship, or that doesn't mean that it's skeezy in any kind of way. But I don't know if the guy's messaging you, like, I mean, let me ask you this, Scanna. Have you ever had to tell a guy that their messages or the subject matter is inappropriate, that you have a boyfriend or something like that?
No, I feel like I never really got like, maybe my work page more so, but then I just shut it down immediately and I try to turn it into like a sales pitch.
Oh, the conversation you're saying?
None of my actual guy friends from like high school or people that I met in general never did that, because I feel like they understand that that's disrespectful.
Wait, you're not getting guys sliding into your DMs like saying fucking...
Not my personal, no.
Not at all? Nothing? No, like, hey, you look sexy. What are you doing?
If it's a promotion page, that's one thing. That's for like work. But like on my personal...
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
But the other ones, you just ignore it and you're just like...
I mean, I have an AI message in them.
You're like, I'll let the robot deal with this. Yeah, okay.
A robot deals with that shit.
The robot's got it. Interesting.
I feel like also like, I mean, it's weird because it's like my page went from all like solo pictures, and like that's when I did get a lot of guys messaging me. But now it's like picture with Jay, picture solo, picture with the dog, picture with Jay. He's so apparent and obvious. So it's like guys aren't really going to like...
I haven't, I just got into a relationship not that long ago, and so I was single for a little bit, and I forgot like how powerful the term or the idea of telling a girl you're unavailable is. Like I'll meet a girl now, whatever, I'm socializing, I'm winging, whatever it is, and I'm just like, oh, I'm so sorry, I have a girlfriend. And you would think that that'd be like, no problem, but I kind of forgot that makes the girl almost like, humans are fucked up, dude. It like makes the girl like kind of want you more, I feel like, in a way. It's the strangest thing to me, because for me it's opposite. When a girl tells me I have a boyfriend, I'm like, okay, I do the opposite. But I feel a lot of girls, guys, everybody, when they hear unavailability, they like want it more. It's weird.
All right, so to your point, so I used to, back in the day, not saying this was the right thing to do, certainly wasn't. I wouldn't outright just like lie and be like, no, I'm not married. No, me, no, but I would omit, right? And because I had a limiting belief of like, man, who's going to want to, go out with some dude that's married, And then one time I had was talking to some girl and was going places and things like that. And she got hurt really bad, like real bad. And I felt terrible. I'm like, man, I feel like the worst person on earth right now. Like, I am never doing this ever again. Like, I'm going to be very upfront and forward. I mean, it's not the first thing that's going to come out of my mouth, but, like in the initial conversation, it will be in the conversation. And I could not have been more surprised as how to, now, mind you, I am available, kind of, you know what I mean? But it blew my mind how many women are like, so your wife's cool with it? Well, yeah. All right. And it happened at the wharf the other night. You know what I mean? Like, just like, oh, okay.
They probably appreciate your honesty. You're just like so transparent. You're like, here it is. This is the situation. This is where we're at. And they're like, okay, cool.
Well, what I try to do is I try to work it into the conversation somehow. Like, I'm not like, let me stop you there. just so you know. I'm not doing it like that. It's more of a thing of like, if she says something that might be a show that my wife watches, or an interest, or some commonality in some sort of way, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be like, that's crazy. My wife loves that same thing. Oh, you're married. Yeah, I am. We just had our 23rd anniversary last week, and, and then like, well, what's that like, being married? And well, we have an open relationship, and, oh, okay. So she's fine with all this? Yeah. All right. Now, that being said, are there women that are just like, ooh, that's weird and gross? Yeah. It does happen. But it's way smaller than I would have ever imagined.
I think it's like, so we had this joke where I do some stand up or whatever, and Brandon was on the show all the time here, used to roast me. He's like, Al, you're getting to the age, I'm 39 now. He's like, you're almost so old to have never been married and never had kids, where girls are going to ask questions. They're like, what's wrong with him? It's like if you see like a listing for an apartment or something, and then like the price is like, wait, why does this cost this much? Is it haunted? Like what's happening? And like, I think now when I present it, it's like, no, I'm sorry, I have a girlfriend. I think girls, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, Anna, they look at a man who has a mate as like, oh shit, he was a good one. You know what I'm saying? Like, if he can get a woman and like is stable, he's not a fuck boy, he's not a disaster, he's not crazy or whatever. They look at that as like, this is like certified, this is USDA approved. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
This is not going to kill me. So I kind of I look at it like that, and it's weird. Like, I don't know, Gore. Like, when you're doing stuff, do you feel like you get better reactions when you tell them you're available, non-available? Is it the same? Like, what's your take on that?
I've noticed that my energy is different when I'm having conversations with them. It's very like detached and like, I don't care type of energy, and that is the thing that attracts them more. I haven't like noticed anything obvious in terms of like blatantly saying like, oh no, I'm in a relationship, in terms of like whether they want you more or less, but I have noticed in terms of like the way I approach it, there's a bit of more like attraction from her end, because I'm not trying to get anything. And I usually get like, you have this very comforting, warm energy, like refreshing, things like that, because I'm just there adding value with my presence and not wanting anything for it, as opposed to like having the intention of moving it forward and like maybe like going for something too early and it not being the right time, and then it kind of like goes downhill. Whereas now it's like I don't really go for that to begin with, and so throughout the entire time it's just adding value without taking it any steps further.
It's so weird how like the human condition works like that, right? It's like the magnetic element of like, if a guy goes towards a girl and wants something from her, she does this.
Yeah.
But if you're like standing flat and you're like, I don't want anything from you, now she it's like, it's a weird yin and yang of the relationship of people, right? Like, I want something from you. You're like, oh, get away from me. Like, I don't want anything from you. You're like, okay, let me get closer
like
to you.
You should be like secure in yourself.
It's so weird how that works. It's like the thirsty. When you're non-thirsty, they're like, I'm open to you. When you're thirsty, they're like, get away from me.
It's like desperate. That's why.
Have you guys ever had this where a girl breaks up with you? Like, oh, I don't want to see you anymore. And like, she's a very attractive girl, right? And she basically, or your response to that is like, eh.
They're like kind of pissed about that.
Yeah. And they're like, well, wait, what? Right. And then try to win you back, even though she just let you go like 2 minutes ago.
Right.
Have you ever had that?
You're like, oh, maybe we shouldn't do this. You're like, you're right. They're like, well, what do you mean I'm right? It's like you said it. It's like, it's this weird thing. And like, so I'm a kind of a psycho in this stuff, man. I try to do the opposite of what people do in these spots. I like try to zig when other people zag. So like, I'm consciously aware of all these like human patterns, and I try to go the other way on it. I know it sounds super weird, super counterintuitive, but like, if everyone's falling for one thing, I'm like, I want to do the opposite of that. So like, in your example, I'm like, no, I'm not going to fall. If I tell a girl we shouldn't do this and she's like, that's cool, I'm not going to be like, oh, I should. No, I'm just like, oh, she wants me to do this. I'm not going to fall for it. I try to play like the third level of it. And, to varying degrees of effectiveness, but,
very poker-like.
Very poker-like. Exactly. Yeah. Very poker-like. Very meta. A lot of meta game in what I try to do. The whole thing's interesting. Well, Anna, you guys are in your own virtual relationship. So, okay, we talked about this.
That didn't sound kind of. You're in your own version of a relationship.
Your own nuance and stuff.
I guess that's why also like the way that our relationship is. That's also why I'm more like strict in that way. Where I'm like, that would be cheating because our relationship is very based on like communication. We're allowed to have thirds, but we need to like communicate about it, and we both need to be aware of everything. And if we do things behind each other's back, it's like that's not it.
Right.
That's like that like breaks the trust and respect of it.
Trust and respect's everything. Once you don't have that, I don't care what your breakdown is on your relationship, how open, closed, whatever. Trust is everything, dude. Like,
of course.
If they break the rules of engagement, however comfortable or loose they are, like that to me is that's a deal breaker ultimately. So yeah, I look at it from those perspectives, and I'm going to try to find my own way here at 39, getting into this relationship and seeing where it goes.
I want to reference back to something we talked about earlier in terms of like intentions and the tension part. And I want your guys' opinion on this example. If in a relationship of a guy and a girl being friends, they've already established the dynamic where it's like they're super open with each other in terms of the communication and the jokes, the playfulness, the sexual jokes and stuff like that. There isn't really tension or intention, right? But then once the guy is in a relationship, that type of dynamic continues, and now it's like a problem in the relationship. So kind of a vague question, I know, but
you're saying there's a flirty friendship,
and
then the guy gets in a relationship,
with no
should he
intention.
cut off that flirty friendship?
Yeah, especially if and is it justified for the partner to have a problem with it? And if it is, what do you think is the right response?
I think that honestly, dude, it's like put it this way. This is my opinion on it. I don't think the third party, the partner, should be stepping in to cut that relationship off. But I think the person in the middle should be aware and realize this could put their relationship or their trust element in jeopardy, and be proactive. I'll give you an example. Like when I started dating my current girlfriend, my first thought, it was weird. I woke up and I was like, as soon as I was like, I really like this girl. I'm going to date her seriously. My first thought was like, I should delete Instagram. That was my first thought. And not because I'm going to do anything wrong specifically, but I'm like, why am I on Instagram? I don't really like it that much. Yeah. It's taking time away. And all it's doing is like tricking my brain to think that there's this like illusion of like attractive women out there. Not that that's all I follow. Like I have a very balanced following of humans on my thing and my page, my feed. But like, I'm just like, why do I have Instagram again? Like I don't post. I have the girl. Like I think that if you're single, you definitely need to have an Instagram because it's, Anna can show you why, the reasons. But like if you're in a relationship and you're not really a big poster, like you don't use it for business, I don't know. I think I agree with you, Gore. I think that like that flirty relationship could be a pitfall. Mm-hmm. So like if it's the same thing as like if I have health goals. Yeah. And I'm like, my thing is to be healthy, but then I have one cabinet in my house that's nothing but Oreos, fucking Reese's Pieces, fucking, and I'm like, just throw that shit out, bro. Like, because one day I might come over fucking fucked up and just start eating a bunch of Oreos. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't know how you guys feel about that. That's my take on it. So,
well, to answer your 5-part question, no, I agree 100%. I think the onus is on the person who is in exactly what you said. The person who is in the relationship that has the friend, it's on that person to either I guess it kind of depends on the nature of the friendship. But it's up to that person to either set the limitations or break it off completely. Yeah. What you don't want is the third, the girl in the relationship, right? You don't want her having to step in because one, it's going to make her doubt your trust and commitment. And two, it's probably going to make you kind of resent the fact that she just kind of, threw a wet blanket on your fun.
Yeah.
It's so I think it's up to that individual. If they're going to be mature enough to be in a relationship, they should be mature enough to know set the boundaries in the other kinds of relationships that they're in their life.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that. I think ultimately it comes down to the level of communication and openness, like with everything else, like the trust that we talked about and the inclusivity or inclusiveness that you bring to the extent like that you bring your partner into your life and your friendships too.
And it depends too, man. It depends on the nature of the relationship, right? You guys have both what I would consider more progressive relationships, like you two. It depends on the nature of the relationship, one. And honestly, like I'm still growing and working at this in terms of communicating with a partner about
You'll get there.
Elements like that. Yeah, I really am, dude. Communicating with that kind of stuff with a partner, like a lot of times, like I believe in like don't rock the boat. I'd rather not address a hard subject. But I think Gore's question, although a little verbose, was very no, the subject matter was important, right? It's like you got to address that shit because a lot of times in relationships, people just, at least what I see, they sweep shit under the rug. Like, I don't want to deal with this. I don't want to deal with this. And when you sweep shit under the rug, that rug piles up.
Right. That's true. But on the flip side of that, communication isn't just saying something to somebody. There's a time and place a lot of times. And it's not to say like, you just hold on to something and never, communicate that thing or whatever. But there's better times than others. And when you kind of get a sense of that other person's patterns in what they do and when's a good time, when's not a good time to bring something up, there's something to be said for that. And there's also something to be said for the way that you're going to communicate it, right? Because look, you got to know your audience. I know that there's certain things that I can say to my wife that I can't say to some girl that I'm dating, right? My wife is very sensitive. So I have to not walk on eggshells per se, but I have to communicate it in a way that she's going to get it without her feelings getting hurt or thinking that I'm making some type of commentary on her or that, she's a bad person or something like that because I didn't like a certain behavior, And so maybe some girl I'm dating, it's like, that's exactly what you have to do. Like, you got to knock that shit off, right? Mm-hmm. So it just depends on who you're talking to and the way that you're going to communicate with them, not just, let me just tell you this blatantly.
Yeah. But Dale, that's ultimately EQ, right? That's emotional intelligence.
100%.
That's 100%. Understanding the scenario, understanding your partner, the nuance of it. It's something we're all working on every day. Like your relationship, no relationship is perfect. I'm sure you guys work on it. Mm-hmm. You guys work on your relationship all the time. And this is kind of a question I have for you guys is like, how much time do you guys I saw something I think it was on Twitter. I thought it was really cool where this guy, he said he has like a 1 hour meeting with his wife or whatever. And they just like do like a state of the union. They're like, is there any issues you haven't talked about? Is there anything we haven't covered? Is there anything like we haven't like gotten on the same page about? Like, because I feel like here's the issue with relationships. People only talk about that relationship when they're in a fight.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
People never are like, oh, things are going good. Let's talk about our emotions or our needs or our wants. It's only when like, you're driving me fucking crazy. Why don't you do this? Or why don't you do that? Right. And it's like, if you're only addressing your relationship in moments of conflict, how much can you really get resolved? You know what I'm saying? Or how much can you really improve?
Yeah. You saw it on Twitter?
Yeah.
I've been doing that for 20 years, dude. Like exactly what you're saying. And I'll tell you this, what you're talking about, like kind of a state of the relationship, whether it be good, bad, or otherwise.
Yeah.
Just, anybody watching the podcast, just a hint of advice, do it in a neutral space. Do it in the kitchen. Don't talk about sexual things or mishaps or problems or issues. Don't talk about that in the bedroom. Don't talk about it in the place that, whatever you're trying to decide where you're going to go for vacation. She thinks this, you think that. Don't do that in the living room. You want it to be neutral ground, which in a home is the kitchen. That's the kind of the intersection of the house, you know? So if you do that, you're constantly maintaining what you've got and nipping a lot of problems in the bud before it's even an issue, you know? That's crazy. I didn't even know that was out there like that.
Yeah. I saw a guy, I think it's Tyler TODT. I like some of his stuff. And he was talking about that, like maintaining relationships and stuff like that. And I don't see it enough. And you know, before we went on air, we were talking about like some content and stuff that we're creating. And I kind of want to take a moment to acknowledge both of you guys for your books that you've released. For those that don't know, Gore just released his new book. Gore, tell us a little bit about your book.
It's called Becoming a High Value Man. Yeah, you can have
I think Brent's going to try to put up a little graphic for us on it.
Yeah, it's essentially a book meant to be the foundation of your growth, in the sense that a lot of people look for like, oh, what technique should I use? What should I say? What line do I say? And like, how do I get the girl? And this is actually how I start the book, is like the person asking, how do I get the girl, is not going to make as much progress as the person asking, how do I become the person that attracts these girls to me? And so that's basically the basis of the entire book, is how to go about that development, and also what to aim for in terms of becoming that high value man. Ultimately, you want to be somebody that you forget the lines, you forget the techniques, although that's important for your growth, but you want to end up in a place where you subconsciously act out those beliefs, and everything that you do and say, and even the way you drink water, the way you breathe, the way you walk, the way you, and this is something that I've actually talked to a lot of girls about. The number one thing they say that they notice in a guy is the way he carries himself. And so your beliefs reflect who you are and the way you come off. It's very obvious, like the moment she sees you. And so that's the foundation of the book, is that you need to shift your beliefs, and it goes into how to go about doing that, and what vision to have in the process.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And we were sharing ideas about books and concepts. And for me, something I was talking about that I've been working on was a book about what we were just saying too with Dale, which is in these relationships, how to manage those expectations, how to manage that communication, something I'm really fascinated by. I know, Dale, you've written stuff as well, right? You have a new book coming out as well about, tell us a little bit about that.
It's an erotic thriller. Unlocking Unstoppable Confidence, right? And this isn't just for guys, by the way, this particular book. It's a 30-day guide on incrementally improving your confidence day by day in what it is, anything that you want to do, right? Confidence isn't about accomplishment across the board. It's about a belief in what you think is possible for you. That doesn't mean everything's going to work out, but hey, if you are confident enough to give your all in whatever it is that you're doing, you may not hit the pinnacle necessarily, but you'll come a lot closer than not having enough self-confidence to start to begin with. So we see it all the time with the guys that we coach. We were just talking about this yesterday, like some of the guys, it's like, hey, I got blew out by this girl. I was talking to her for 45 minutes and then I don't know what I did and it just went sideways. I'm the worst person ever. And it's like, bro, 3 months ago, not only would you not even have had a 45-minute long conversation, you wouldn't have approached her. And not only would you not have approached her, you wouldn't have been at the place to approach her. Not only would you not been at the place to approach her, you'd be sitting at home by yourself watching something stupid on TV. Right. So it's like, look, you got 30 days in a month. Does that mean that you're going to be king shit at the end of the month? Maybe. Probably not. But it's going to definitely give you a head start in moving closer to what you think can be possible for you, Fantastic stuff, man. Really, really, really incredible stuff. And love what we covered today. For our guests today, for Gore and for Dale and for the lovely Anna. I've been
I'm Albert Estrada stepping in for Jared Lawrence.
Why are women always lovely?
Lovely Anna. Come
No,
on.
no, I'm not saying she isn't. I'm just saying, why can't it be lovely Gore and lovely Dale and lovely Anna?
You guys are okay. We're lovely.
It's about your confidence in your
Exactly.
loveliness.
You got to believe in your loveliness. And on that note, we'll catch you guys in the next episode. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Catch you next time. Bye-bye.